In this video, let's talk about finances. Let's say we are in Tanzania again and there were already some mangoes present. We plant figs and every year we plant maize and beans. Now the first thing that's important to define is the wage per day. Now please also realize that here you can change the currency, and then based on the exchange rate it'll calculate, for example, the wage per day for the different currency. Let's put it back. And then the next thing that we define are costs and revenues. Let's start with mango. By using this little pencil, you can define a lot of things. For example, the price of your mango. And here at high price, you define for which price you can sell your mangoes on a good day. Then maybe there's also a low price that on a bad day you can sell it only for half of the high price. And then here you define that fraction of the high price. Now it could also be that, for example, the branches that you sell them, in that case you can also assign a price to these branches. For example, if a neighbor is interested in mulching but you do not want your branches. Then here you could say, for example, I sell it for 2,000 per kilo. The next thing that's important to consider is the labor and the money needed for the establishment of your system as well as for maintenance later on. So for example, with the fig trees, we are planting them this particular year. And if you hover on top of these factors, you will see into more details what is exactly asked. But for example, here you can see that it is assumed that you spend 24 days on planting 1 hectare full of fig trees. Well, we only have 10% cover of fig trees, which means 40 trees. So it'll calculate based on the size of your plot, which was defined here. Well, here 1.3 hectare. Along with the cover on your plot, it'll calculate how much money it takes as well as how much labor it takes. Then, for example, it's the same with beans and with maize. You can also define that here with the high price, etc. Then there are also the inputs to consider. So you might apply fertilizer, and then it's important to define that it takes, for example, 2 days per hectare to apply it, and then the costs to get it. Well, let's check it out in the results. So first, our graph summary tells us that indeed we have maize, beans, figs, and mango, and then the finance tab will show us into more detail where the money comes from and goes to. So here we have input costs, and you can see where the input costs come from. Here you see that the fertilizer is pretty expensive. Then you also see that for the fig, especially in the first year, it's very expensive because we need to establish it all, and then there is only a fixed amount of money needed every year. Then you can also see input costs by type. So initial costs, you see that it's only because of the fig trees in the very first year, but there are also recurrent costs coming back every year. Then there is also revenue by species, and this is of course highly dependent on yield. And for this, it's important to realize that the settings in your farm socioeconomics are important. So your marketing skill of 100% means that you are very well able to sell your products. But often when you are a semi-commercial farm or maybe even semi-subsistence, that's not your focus, meaning that also you will not have so many revenues by species. So now that I've changed this, you will see that revenue by species, it changes. Then there's an overview of the wages. There is a cumulative balance, and for this, it's important to realize that by ticking this box, you include the wages in the balance. You can exclude them by unticking the box, and then you will see your balance without the wages. Here also you can find some more graph info, how it is calculated. Then there is your annual balance. mutations. And here it is checked when you are in a negative balance, meaning that you will have to pay some interest. So here you say, because in the beginning we had to do an investment, we will also have to get a loan for which we need to pay interest. And then there is the balance per labor day, and it is detailed because it's specified for the species and the inputs. And here you can see what it costs to have these trees and plots on your plot every year. Also, you could see, for example, if we would say that mango needs a lot of management, for example, we need 10 days every year to do management on these trees, and we submit it. Then we see the mango management coming up here, and you will see what it means every year. Then also there is balance per labor day, where it's summarized by costs and revenue.